So in our last video, we left off when we were drifting our chaser at the drift event, and now we're back home, got unloaded, everything's all back, and we can start assembling our SR20 here. So we got our head back from the machine shop, and just all of our parts laid out as last time. Just gonna go back over once more, clean up all this since it was just sitting for a little bit and small things here and there. And then we can get to how to assemble an SR20DET engine. So for those that don't know, it'll kind of be a how-to, not exactly with like all torque specs and everything, but just a generalization of getting it all together. All right, so our first order of business is to get on our front cover. So we're gonna want to flip over the engine here. That way the chain will stay where it needs to be. Disregard our mess. So there are 3 marks on this chain. Should be 2 blacks and 1 silver. And that is going to be, your 2 blacks are for the cam, and then our silver is going to be actually on a dot here on the crank. So we do have to spin our crank back, but it's actually going to end up on our dot with our oil pump drive. So let me get this spun back real quick and then we'll start over. Alright, so if you can see here, there's a dot on the oil pump drive. Obviously it can only go in one direction because you do have it keyed here. And then that will line up with your silver mark on the drive or the chain. Make sure everything is in your guides properly. It'll be behind this one, which you don't need these guides on right away, but to put on the front cover, obviously you do. This one is the tension side. So when you do put on your front cover, there is like a little rod that sticks out, and it will prevent the chain from falling. So once you seal up this side, you can flip it back over and do the rest from there. And that is what's going to prevent the chain from moving up and down. Alright, so we got our front cover out, and we have our Permatax Ultra Black. You can use this or like an OEM Nissan sealant. So we'll just apply this and show you putting it on the motor. So also there are these small little overflow spots here on the cover. You don't need to fill these, just the inside one. This is where the excess sealant will go. And also over here, you do have your O-ring sealing surface. Do not get any sealant in there, or else your O-ring will most likely not seal. So now we have good coverage here, and now we'll get it on our engine. So here you have your O-ring. Just simply goes right in here. Pretty simple. And then we'll get our cover on. So the pin that I was talking about earlier that holds the chain on is this one marked in the blue. And then you want to just line this up. Make sure your oil pickup is out of the way. And then you just have to line up your oil pump drive like so. So when you start to get the dowels on, and tighten up all your bolts before your sealant starts to set. Alright, next thing you cannot forget is your gasket between your oil pickup. So we are going to reuse our old gasket. Just want to wipe it off. It is a metal gasket, like so. the direction doesn't really matter. That is pretty much the same each way. Slide that in there. Alright, so the little support is a little, you just have to bend it in the way. So we're gonna start our bolt in the gasket and then push it to line up. And then once we get both those in, we can start to tighten these guys down. Make sure it's lined up properly. And then we will check these with our torque wrench. Alright, so now we need to get our upper pan sealed up, that way to prevent the chain from falling down through the side here. So of course you just want to do it the same way. Go on the inside of your bolt holes, you can go around too just for some extra safety, especially if the bolts are going through like a oil passage where it shows to the outside. Once you get your pan all situated, make sure there's no spiders hanging around in it. And you'll just drop it over the top. Try to line up your holes in your dowels. You got your two long ones in the back. The washer fell off. Then all the rest of these are pretty much the same. There's a few that'll be like lighter color, and these are going to go on the inside because they have been coated in oil their whole life, so you know which ones are going on the inside. Need a wrench for these last two here, but other than that, these are all tight. We'll check them all with our torque wrench again, but this isn't going to be too in-depth as far as the torque procedures. There are two nuts back here for the rear main housing as well. You cannot forget those. And then otherwise, here is our bolts. We have a nice seam coming out along the whole thing. That'll set. You don't have to wipe it off or anything. Looks good and does help it seal. That way it doesn't try to just go back through it and not dry all the way, because it does need oxygen to cure. So now you have your oil windage tray here. Pop that on, and then we'll get the lower pan on as well. Alright, pretty simple to get that on there. Now for our new Greddy oil pan. Alright, so this is what comes in our Greddy oil pan kit. We got some instructions here that, yeah, we don't know what it says, but we're going to take a little guess. Got to put in our baffles and then silicone this on there. Pretty simple. We are going to blue Loctite these flaps in there. That way they do not fall out inside of the pan and we don't got to take this back apart. Alright, so we got our baffles installed. There is a larger side and a shorter side. It's pretty obvious which one's going which. You can see the depth of this mount is lower, but they also just won't physically fit the bigger side on this. So you'll see they get really close to the bottom. Now we're going to get our sealant on here and bolt this down. Alright, here you have your seal. Just want to make sure you put this in the correct direction. And it should go with the, yeah, already facing this way. And then you just have a couple different size bolts. Obviously the short ones are going to go on the sides and the long ones through the center. You can just go back over to your wrench and check everything by hand. Because this is aluminum, you do not want to over tighten this. And there you have it. So now we can move on to the top end of our engine. Alright, so I took a quick break after getting our pans on, had to make a quick lunch and drink. So don't forget to stay hydrated working in this hot garage. But otherwise, here's our nice seal, all pretty much starting to get set here. It's not wet anymore, starting to just tack up. So now we can flip this back over and start getting our head on. We're gonna seal our front cover to the block on the top side. So we'll show you that seam now. All right, so now we got our silicone back here. We're going to place it along this surface here and along the seams here and just kind of level it all out with our fingers. We'll see if our tube froze up. Nope, it's not frozen up, so the other one's probably not all set yet either 100%. So you just want to put a decent amount down, but not too much to where you're going to be having it all go inside of the motor. And then just graze over it with your finger and make sure you have a nice even layer on there, because this is one of the few spots that you don't want to leak for sure. So now we're going to take our head gasket and put our chain through it. Make sure not to lose your chain. And then that will go on like so. And make sure to just get it in the dowels. And then it is going to be easier with two people to hold the chain while you put on the head. But I'm going to try this solo. Just make sure your tension guide is inwards and then you should be able to clear it. And there you have it. So we're just catching on our movable guide for the tensioner side. So it did get caught in the hole. Just pick it up a little bit, move it back. And now before this all sets, we do want to get our two long bolts in, like go through the front cover, because these are going to be the ones to dry the quickest. And then we will get our main bolts to do the head. So we are reusing our head studs from our old motor, and then we already have all of our washers in here. I don't think any moved. And then we'll just do our studs in. So we'll show you that as well. So you want to make sure that all your bolt holes are free of any liquids, because you could end up cracking your block when you put these in. But these are going to be quote unquote hand tight. So these ones are a 3/16 Allen. So we're just going to start to snug these in. just till they start to slow down. And then we'll also check these all by hand. And now we could just get our 12-point nuts on there. Alright, once you get all your things started, you can run these down with your impact. Just don't obviously bang on it. We will go from the inside outwards, each direction, in multiple steps to torque down the head. Make sure your chain is still movable and it's not caught up on anything, otherwise you'll have to take the head back apart. So that seems good there. Alright, so now we'll get our torque wrench. Alright, so we have our torque wrench here, 1/2 inch. This is also a 1/2 inch 12-point socket for these specific ARPs. And you'll set this, we're going to go 30, 60, and then 90. So some people, there's like a Mazworks stud kit which says a lot lower torque rating. We're not sure which ones these are. These should be the ARP ones, but either way, we're just going to go off the ARP spec since the last engine was pretty unknown. So there's our 30. Now we'll move up to our 60. And finally, our 90 mark. I think our whole stud just snapped on us. That's ridiculous. Now we gotta pull this whole thing back apart. Alright, so you can't see it, but about 2 or 3 inches down in this hole, we have our snapped stud here. So now we're gonna have to try to extract this thing, order new parts, and then put this all back together. So we'll see if we can get this out with a tool, or if we're gonna have to bring this to the machine shop and end up having to machine this out and maybe upgrade stud size. All right, so we just got back from Harbor Freight. We've got a couple tools here. So just broke the head stud. We're going to use this transfer punch here, and I'm going to try to use this extractor set in combination to get this stud out. The center punch is going to be like the perfect OD for this hole, and it's going to basically put that right in the center where we need it, obviously. Then we will try to use our drill bit and the extractor and hopefully get this guy out of here. Alright, so now we just need to figure out whatever size is going to fit this, so we'll just start testing ones until we get the largest one that we can fit in there. So it looks like that's perfect size. These are a bit oily. I'm going to get some gloves on real quick before we get oil all over the camera. Alright, so you'll want a nice heavy hammer for this because you want a good indent on this so it doesn't walk away when you start drilling it. Looks like we got a pretty good mark in there. So we'll get our drill bit and extractor out and try to get this out of here. Not really making much of a dent in there. Alright, so the brake's not really even. I can't get the smaller drill bit on, so I'm going to try to use one the same size as the stud just to level it off and then see if we can get a smaller one from there for an extraction. Kind of got it full of shavings, so we'll spray this out with some brake clean and then take a look inside. Maybe we can get an extractor in there now. Yep, looks a lot more center. Now we can go back with our other size. Alright, so we got our hole drilled pretty decent. I'll pop this little bolt in here. We've got our extractor bit in here, so we're going to hopefully get this out of here. We had tapped it in there. This may not fit the best. Let me get the smaller one. It does appear to be spinning, but we don't know if it actually grabbed the stud. Yeah, just popped right out. So maybe we can get a better hammer using our tool here. May need to go up a size then. All right, we got our next size over in. I just started to turn it. It does feel like we are into the bolt. Unfortunately, the little rod's a little long. Yeah, so we'll just have to keep taking this off and then resetting it. Felt like something let go there. Might just need to hammer this guy back in here. But it does seem we got a few turns out of it. All right, yeah, we're gonna have to drill this even more to get deeper so we can get more engagement on this extractor. All right, so unfortunately the stud in here, don't know if you guys can see it, it's broken up pretty far. We couldn't really get our extractor in too well. We tried two different sizes. It just kind of kept wallowing out the extractor bit. So we are going to have to bring this to the machine shop and go over and do like the MazWorks 1/2 inch studs over the 3/8. So this block is going to take a little longer now, but we can just bore over our old block actually and just throw a new piston set in. So until then, we're going to move over and get all of our chassis work done. So that's going to pick up in our next video. So we'll catch you guys in the next one.